Hey everyone, thanks Mike, Andrew, and Solutions Monday for having me. Super excited to be talking about this session about black holes or what comes in the way of data analytics and AI teams. We've all heard that data is the new oil. And when you think about data analytics, data science, and AI teams, they are in the business of transforming data into insights. Insights that could be in the form of dashboards, metrics, models, and eventually these insights lead to decisions. When you think about analytics, these decisions are internal to the business. When you think about AI-based features, they are for customers within products, help them navigate, help them make the best decisions at scale. This is a journey map, right? You can take any problem in this space and really sort of think about the phases of definition, data preparation, building out, and then operationalizing. Now, this is a team sport. It involves many different teams, many different personas, multiple titles, multiple different ways these personas today are kind of, they have these titles within their teams and they need to interact, they need to work with each other to make outcomes happen. Data producers, data engineers, analysts, scientists, ML engineers, AI engineers, ML ops, data ops. Now, to make this happen, to make the journey map go seamlessly, over the last few years, we have seen an amazing growth in the number of tools, number of technical solutions that exist today. And again, this is just a snapshot. There are many such landscape views out there, just keeping up with the pace of innovation that is happening across the board. Now, even with all the tools and technical solutions and the innovations, there are still things that are coming in the way. There are many studies out there. I've just taken one as an example, where it's very clear that through this journey map, we are still not potentially providing the insights at the right granularity, providing the adoption of models, providing the ability to democratize and make sure that the value of data through analytics and AI is fully being accomplished. So what's coming in the way? The tools are there, but we are still slowing down. And this is the part which this talk focuses on, which is, if you look at this journey map that I just mentioned earlier, there are many black holes. Black holes, from a terminology standpoint, is my way of saying things that slow us down in various different phases, be it data production, be it definitions of the problem, preparation, building, operationalizing, and even the last mile. There are multiple different patterns of problems that slow down data analytics and AI teams. Now, while the focus is technical solutions or technical tools that are coming in the market, the next shiny tool, the way to address these slowdowns is not just tools. It's a collection of process, mindsets, team design, and data maturity. So you may have the best tools or the most sophisticated tools available, but if you're actually not thinking holistically, you will not be able to address the black holes that slow down the pace at which you need to develop these insights. And that's measurable through time to insights, quality of insights, and scaling. So what I'm really going to spend the remaining time here is to share some of the patterns of black holes that come in the way when it comes to overall productivity. So in particular, there are 6 patterns I'm going to cover. I'm skipping the tech tools. Obviously, there's a lot of other discussions and talks around tech tools and the innovations in technology that can help expedite. So I'm going to focus more on the other 4 buckets in this talk. And what I decided to do is there are many such patterns. I decided to pick a handful, more to give you a flavor of what these are. And more importantly, it would be, let's make this interactive. So as we talk about this, I would really like to understand your side of the picture. If these patterns are something that you are encountering as well. So as we go along, as I talk about this, I would really like to, have you take some time, add your experiences in chat as we go along on this one. Now, here's what I'm going to do. In the rest of the talk, I'm going to talk about these 6 patterns. And for each of these patterns, to make them illustrative, I'm actually putting it as a conversation. And this conversation is something I generated using ChatGPT. So that's another fun part, which is in preparing for this talk, I wanted to recreate what the pain point of conversation would look like and gave the right prompts to ChatGPT. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be going through each of these patterns. So first category, process bottlenecks, process black holes. In this, a common pattern is undocumented institutional knowledge. So to sort of bring this to light, the scenario here is Allison, who is a new data analyst who has recently joined the team, is chatting with Andrew, who has been with the team for several years, and he's actually the team lead. And in this conversation, Allison is really sort of trying to understand how to get started. Where are the right data sets? What are the KPI definitions? How is experimentation done? What are some of the common dashboards? How do we deploy models? How do we think about the analysis, or are there common patterns for analysis that already exist in the team? Now, this conversation here is illustrative, but it's a very common example of a process black hole where teams typically do have this knowledge not documented, but it's available, anecdotally available in your mind or in your head. And others really have to gather this information, which is sometimes very painful. Also, more importantly, as teams evolve, as attrition happens, this knowledge is lost. So there are examples or scenarios where for some models or some metrics, they are orphans. The information about why specific data sets were taken, how was it defined, why was the logic defined the way it was, it's not available anywhere. So this is a very important, I would say, a bottleneck that slows down teams. The key takeaway here from this is, as we are building deliverables in the AI and analytics space, it's equally important to build the knowledge, documentation, and sharing within the teams. So I'd love to take a pause here, get your inputs on chat. So maybe in chat, if you can share, does this pattern exist in your workplace? Love to hear about that. Awesome. Keep the comments coming. And I'm going to move on to the next black hole. This black hole is about a jungle of data pipelines. And the idea here, this is a conversation between Andrew, who is an AI engineer, and Frank, who is a data engineer. And Andrew here is trying to build out a model where one of the metric or input parameters to his model is not matching with source data. That is, there's some discrepancy. And in this conversation, it's going to and fro with respect to, have you checked out the transformation logic? Have you checked out the data quality? Is there something else going on that could be causing these issues to happen? Now, the key point here is that when you think about the process of taking source data from the applications, and making it available to AI models and analytics, these transformations, or what's referred to as data pipelines, get created, which transform the data in the right format, in a form, join it with other data sources, making it available for downstream insights. This process today is getting increasingly complicated. The term jungle of pipelines basically refers to many transformations being built out just to get the data to a point that is easy to consume. And when things don't go well, you would actually see these conversations, teams spending a lot of time just debugging and understanding what's going on. So a key takeaway when you think about how to get ahead of this kind of black hole, it's really, again, there are tools, technologies that can help this, make transformation easy, build unit testing, build quality checks, and so on. But more importantly, one approach to be thought of here is really working with source teams to better design data. The goal should really be, how do you simplify and not really even have to transform the data? Use the data in pretty much the right format being generated, so there are no real jungle of pipelines to debug and things that come in the way from an overall productivity standpoint. So that's black hole number 2. Again, love to take a pause here and see if you have similar issues and your thoughts around this pattern. Great. I'm going to keep moving. I'm now going to switch over to the second category. Again, these are flavors within process. There are many, many. As I was preparing for this talk, decided to take a couple more that are representative. And again, you could just have process black holes for this entire talk. And there are many such to talk about. But I wanted to sort of change to the next category, which is data maturity black holes. And one of the scenarios here is really about the improper understanding of data. So in this scenario, we have Jane, who is a data scientist, talking to Emily, who is producing data. She's a producer of one of the data sets that Jane is consuming. And in this conversation, the scenario is all about Jane, who has been incorrectly actually assuming some definitions about a specific attribute. So this is a common example where when consumption is happening downstream, what exactly do these attributes mean? What constitutes the data set? Does the data set have a bias? Does the data set remove outliers that the producer decided to not capture? Those assumptions, those details need to be propagated for building the right insights downstream. And this is another pattern when it comes to, when we think about data maturity, one of the key aspects of data maturity should be how well is data documented such that it can actually be understood? So key takeaway here is data documentation is super critical. It's not something where you would see an immediate ROI, and teams often, even if they document, they may not keep it updated, they may not change it. So using the right automation, using the right approaches is super critical for this pattern. So improper data understanding can spend an amazing amount of time, the teams can be spending amazing amount of time just building out insights which honestly are flat out wrong, since they may not have a good understanding of what the attribute means. Oftentimes it's just the attribute name that is used as a way to understand the meaning or infer the meaning of what it stands for. Like to hear from all of you, so I'm going to again take a pause here and get your inputs. Sounds exciting. The next one, and this is actually my favorite, which is when we think about data maturity black holes, uncoordinated changes on the source is a big problem today. So, in this scenario, we have, Eric as a data analyst, again, working with Emily as a data producer, and, he's encountering his matrix and some of his dashboards that are now starting to reflect incorrect values. And as Eric is sort of trying to understand what's going on, he's realizing that there have been changes that he now has to account for, changes that happened on the source without providing, any heads up. So obviously, this is one of those examples or areas where teams get hit by, issues, escalations, information not matching. And this is the part where, they then need to start digging and debugging what's going on. Oftentimes, it turns out that things changed on the source, which is causing this impact. So for this one, when we think about uncoordinated source changes, it's really about treating data as code. So when you think about code, you have APIs, API definitions, APIs that are then unit tested and verified. There needs to be something similar for data as well. There's a growing notion around data contracts that is an important pattern, but more importantly, the hygiene of treating data as code. And this is really important to make sure that the ad hoc or unplanned work that analysts and AI teams get hit with when they are really sort of making sure or fixing changes that happened at the source in an expedient fashion, which is not really productive in the sense that it takes time away from other activities. So super important pattern. I'm again going to take a pause here and see if there are similar, if you have encountered something similar within your organization. Sounds good. We're down to two other categories. Like I said, each category here is more to give a flavor. There are many such patterns one can talk about. The next one is, again, one of my favorites, which is team design. How are we organized in the most effective way to deliver on these insights? And one of the common black holes in this space, which is so common now, is unclear roles and responsibilities. So, in this, there's a scenario of an analyst working with a data engineer, and just given the titles, there are assumptions being made. The analyst is assuming the end-to-end domain knowledge with transformation and this transformation logic that would be required that the data engineers will be completely familiar with, so to speak. Now, there is no right or wrong answer. In fact, within the industry, we are going through a phase where there are multiple different titles, but these titles don't mean the same. So when we are recruiting and creating teams, individuals on the team may come with different assumptions based on their past experiences about what those titles mean, what the scope of the work is, and so on. So for this one of the most important pieces here is documenting R&Rs, not really assuming anything about if this is the role, that's what the role means. Every org is different, every team is different, data maturity levels are different, the tool maturity levels are different. And what the individual roles are required to do would vary, sometimes very significantly. So for this black hole, again, super important to have upfront, clear understanding of what the R&Rs are all about, and making sure the team is fully familiar, because this can really save significant amount of time in terms of incorrect assumptions and drop balls which otherwise happen. Please add to the chat your thoughts around and your experiences, like definitely anything where you have burnt your fingers within the team with these assumptions would be great to hear. Awesome. Now, in the team design bucket, I actually had many other patterns, but in the interest of time, I just have put in this one here for just to get you started. But it's, again, bear in mind there are many other scenarios in terms of centralized, decentralized teams, ensuring the right training, ensuring the right I would say interaction models along with business teams, along with other personas, is a very important part of what you do need in order to make the overall productivity to deliver the overall productivity that you're looking for. But I'm going to move over to the fourth section of black hole, which is the literacy black holes. And in this bucket, essentially it's all about building proper understanding. And to create that, there's a scenario here between Allison, who's a data analyst, and Jack, who is a business user, where Jack is looking at a dashboard for marketing spend and actually making incorrect assumptions or has an incorrect understanding of how to interpret some of the metrics that is seen with respect to the media, social media channels spend, how they are performing, and so on. And based on those, I would say, incorrect interpretations, is making decisions which may not be right for the business. Now, if you broaden this scenario, it's all about insights that are being consumed. So when you think about from the analytics world working with business teams, or in the AI world where it's a feature, it's building out inputs and insights for within a feature as a product or for broader customers, it's really important to make sure that what those mean is crystal clear. As we move towards self-service, as we move towards democratizing, literacy becomes very important. Literacy are the guardrails that ensures that we are building these insights or using or having these insights being applied in the correct form that's required for the business. That's the key takeaway here, which is when we think about any of these examples around literacy, the assumption of whether there is a clear single understanding. So, metrics are very notorious. There are no single definitions. Oftentimes, there are multiple definitions, and different business stakeholders may be looking at information, the same information, with these different definitions and coming to different conclusions. So, again, from an overall productivity standpoint, this in my mind is the last mile. If we are not able to truly get the last mile correct, it's one of those which makes it, I would say, makes the impact and value of the entire data exercise questionable. So I'm going to again take a brief pause here and love to hear from all of you. Awesome. I'm going to wrap up, and the wrap up really is the one key takeaway when you think about how you need to be thinking about productivity. Firstly, think about the end-to-end journey map, the transformation of data to the insights that you're generating, insights in the form of models, metrics, dashboards. Now, in this transformation journey, there are many different personas that are involved. And this talk, you got a glimpse of how these personas interact. There are common patterns that come in the way where, as you're doing the overall end-to-end journey, these patterns need to be thought through, not just or solved, not just with tech tools, but really need the holistic thinking of, do we have the right process? Do we have the right mindsets? Do we have the right team design? Literacy and mindsets is a common bucket in terms of, have we built the right thinking process within the teams? And then really also, do we have the right data maturity to ensure that the end-to-end process is as effective as it can get? So with that, I'm going to leave you with the thought, which is, as you go back and look at your teams, invest in the tools, but more importantly, invest on uncovering these black holes that are slowing you down. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'm happy to take Q&A through the chat.